These highlights from the Probate podcast will help you navigate life transitions like a pro. From senior living to estate planning to probate, you'll learn incredibly useful tips. Be sure to like and subscribe to hear more from Sherry Lund and her expert guests.
So how does the real estate agent guide people in these scenarios?
Well, specifically to probate, you definitely would want to work with a realtor who has some working knowledge, some education on how the skeleton of this operation works. Because if they don't, it can be a little bit tricky. Your role as a realtor is to be a consultant. It is to be someone who can help them make their transaction more seamless and smooth. So the more input and understanding they have of the probate process, the better those things will work. Many times we say that the realtor and the lender are on the same team. There's going to be a probate attorney, and really the probate attorney and the realtor and there's not a lender in this situation, but the title company, they all need to be on the same team talking and working together so that the client knows everybody's on the same page. You want a realtor who is very capable of keeping the emotion at bay. Similar to a situation where people are getting divorced, there's a lot of emotion involved, much more than a traditional transaction. And if you have a realtor who is volatile, who is not patient, who is not willing to go the extra mile, because there's a lot of different parts in here. There's a lot of compassion that's needed in these situations. And if you don't have the right realtor there, they won't be the type of consultant that you need. And so people might not understand that fully when they are looking for someone to help them in this situation.
Everybody knows a realtor, right?
Right.
Your
Right.
uncles, cousins, sisters, neighbor. I'll just go with her because I know her and I feel obligated to go with her.
One of the best things I heard when I was starting real estate was a question to ask someone is that if you're choosing to work with someone, are you going to be able to tell that person when something's wrong? Are you going to be able to tell them you don't like something? Are you going to be able to tell them that you need something different? And if you don't think you can communicate those things because of the current relationship, then that shouldn't be someone you handle your business with.
Yeah, that's true because it is a business transaction for sure.
Yes.
It's a big one. Can you talk about some of the challenges that you've seen come up in probate situations?
I think some of the challenges are like we've talked about, you have family members that potentially live in different states. I've had two different ones where you have children of the deceased who one lived in a different country. The other one lived on the East Coast, one lived on the West Coast. And so you have time zones, you have varying interest levels. Some
That's
of
true.
them understand real estate, some of them do not. Some of them want to listen, some of them do not. Situations can be more complicated. Maybe there's more things going on. Maybe there's debts to be paid off. Maybe there are complications with the title. There could always be extenuating circumstances because when the will is being probated, there's certain wishes, there's certain things that need to be followed, and then there's a protocol. When it's in probate, you can't sell a house, for instance, until you have a death certificate. You can't do anything. So there are certain legal documents that have to be filed and in place before anything can happen. If probate is going on, depending on the county you're in and depending on the file, it could take 2 months, it could take 6 months, it could take longer. And helping everyone understand that the legal process is what it is can just be hard. It can be exhausting on people who really just want to close this chapter and move
For
on.
sure. Yeah, a lot of people, a lot of heirs that don't understand the timeline are anxious to get get their money, and it's all
Right.
in the house. And so let's put the sucker on the market and just sell it. But you can't do that without those letters testamentary. And just because someone's named an executor on a will doesn't mean the court approves that. They might have something in their history, or they might be ill or incapacitated themselves, or just not able to. But even if they are granted letters of testamentary, they don't walk out of the courtroom that day with them. It takes a couple of weeks for the court to get them to you before you even have the authority to act on behalf of the estate. So you could have buyers that are biting at the bit to get into that home. It's a lovely home. They're ready to get in, whatever, make it their own. And they have to wait. They can't sell their house until like the domino effect. You can't legally rush that process. Everything would come to a halt. And so Yeah, on top of all the other things. And in the meantime, you might be paying a mortgage on it. You might have to, taxes are going to be due. The grass has to be mowed. Pipes might break. So there are things that are going on while you're waiting for this process, but you don't have to wait until probate's over to finally sell the house. You can sell it, but you do need those letters. What about the family that says, let's just sell it for sale by owner? We would save the real estate commission costs. Right. What would you say about that?
The biggest challenges for people who do for sale by owner are the marketing, the pricing, and the negotiations. And people see real estate all the time. This is why most people enter the market. It's an easy job and anyone can do it. And all I got to do is show some houses or put a lockbox on a door, put a sign in the yard. And so there are limited service companies where a for sale by owner can get their house on the MLS. But most times the errors I see them make there are they're taking their own photos and they're not professional photos. When 90% of people are finding their home on the internet, that is not the impression you want to make. Many don't take the time to minimize, declutter, stage the home. And so it's just not being presented in the best light. Many consumers, I would also share, are hesitant to work with for sale by owners because it is a different feel. It's not traditionally, it does not equate to a professional experience. A seller who's representing themselves can be very emotional. They don't know what they are required by law to disclose. They don't know how things work, and that can complicate the process. Many times, for sale by owners also don't want to pay the buying agent if they don't have to. And that just creates shaky ground for people to be on. Many times we talked about pricing earlier, and for sale by owners don't always understand how to price their home. They, like you said, they see, oh, these houses sold in my neighborhood, and so my house should be easily worth what they are. But they're not looking at accurate comparables, and they're not going and doing the adjustments. Many times they're just not able to see the difference between their home and another home. And negotiations. When you have a realtor who does this every single day, multiple times a month, they understand what's typical, they understand what's normal, they know what is expected. And someone
Right.
who only sold a house maybe 8, 10 years ago, maybe even if it was 5 years ago, 3 years ago, they don't remember. And they weren't handling all of those pieces. The regulations and the laws, they change on a regular basis. And that's a great deal of unknown. So the seller's just not normally the best at negotiating all these pieces into that contract. So they're normally leaving money on the table or they're losing out on the other pieces because they don't understand how they work. So
Right. One thing that I've heard is, shoot, I just put that roof on. Do you know how much that roof cost me? And they expect to get that
right.
much full price back in the market value or whatever. And then also it's a legal contract. Like they can come back and sue you if they find out that you didn't fill out the seller's disclosure form properly, or
Mhm.
if you weren't quite honest about this or that. It's not a walk in the park. It's not just at closing, but they can come back even later.
Right. There's statute of limitations on
That's it.
coming back and people often feel that mechanical updates should give them value and they give you value. They just don't give you monetary value. So
Right.
homeowner maintenance is homeowner maintenance. There are things that you
Right.
should do to maintain your home because you're living there and you want to live in a good, safe environment. Cosmetic updates are normally where you get your increased value and where
Right.
you can hope to recover money on those things. But you're right, there's a good deal of liability involved in selling a home. And when you don't know what you don't know, it's hard to be on top of those things. I think people rely on, well, it's my house, it's mine, I can sell it, I can do it. And yes, you can, you just have to know how to do it. And
Right.
there is a right way and there's a wrong way. And we live in a very litigious society. So I think that it's an increasing risk to be selling your own property.
It's definitely not objective. And so when you have that, I can do it, I can do it, I know what my house is worth, that's almost makes it more dangerous, in my opinion.
Well, even when I've sold properties that I own, I have my thoughts. But then I always reach out to 2 or 3 friends who are in real estate. And I'm like, "Hey, this is what I think, but tell me what you think."
That's a
Because
good
we
idea.
are we are all biased. You can't help it.
Yeah, you're invested in your home for sure.
To catch the full episode and explore more resources from the Probate Podcast, check the links in the description and be sure to subscribe for more tips each week.